All right, folks, Mike here, another little episode of America's New Clothes. So we made a post on Facebook yesterday about The Guardian. The Guardian has posted two stories yesterday, very interesting. One story was, does News Corp care less about fact-checking than Twitter and Facebook? The basic gist of the story is that Facebook and Twitter were right to censor the stories on the Hunter Biden laptop, and that they were completely justified in digging further, and that somehow they had a higher standard than the New York Post, which is of course owned by News Corp, oldest newspaper in the country. Really sad state of affairs, because in the same breath, or in the same day, they published the story of, I'm sure you saw, Rudy Giuliani ostensibly changing out his microphone during the Borat film. It certainly looked like a strange photo, the juxtaposition of this young woman with him as he was laying on the bed. But of course, explainable. This is an example of the kinds of censorship and media bias that I believe liberals, even folks that are supporting Joe Biden, should be pretty upset about. We should be looking at making sure that all the truth comes out. Americans need to make their decision based on the facts. And I think the facts bear out pretty clearly that this Hunter Biden laptop, first of all, it's not going away. These laptops, however they were found, were they stolen material? Were they, not truly in the possession of Giuliani to be given? However you want to look at that stuff, the fact that they exist and they have this information on it, I think it's pretty damning. And I also think that for you to try to, first of all, you see the FBI and the DNI, the Director of National Intelligence, John Ratcliffe, has come straight out and said, look, there's no evidence that this is part of a Russian propaganda campaign, right? There's no evidence that this laptop has been forged, right? Not only did they request to have, the Hunter Biden's lawyers tried to get it back. So obviously there had been some previous possession there. And who's going to be able to manufacture that number of, text messages, emails, and videos that are on this laptop? It's simply preposterous to think that somebody's going to manufacture that entire disk image and put it in the hands of Giuliani. So for them to be applauding Facebook and Twitter from censoring this story is pretty bad, right? It's basically, hey, we are going to play whack-a-mole with anything that pops up that's not shedding a good light on our candidate, but then we're willing to run with a story that obviously has an alibi, right? The Giuliani story has an alibi, and we're going to run with that like, it's, the worst thing. Look at this guy, this pedophile who's working for the Russian government. I remember a time when Giuliani was America's mayor, right? He was the one that led us through the September 11th crisis and really unified the city, tremendously patriotic. And to defame him as he has been somewhat of a surrogate for the president in trying to unveil some of this corruption, I think it's just pure partisanship hackery. And we have to call it out for what it is. And I would argue that this moment that we're in which the media is jumping the shark, they've kind of set up for themselves. When we had 3 years of this Russian collusion story being pushed on every network, from MSNBC to CNN, and all these prominent newscasters running with this, and all of these high-level politicians and officials in the federal government telling us, oh yeah, if you could see what I could see in the skiff, or if you had the access that I have security clearance wise, you would be appalled at the amount of Russian collusion. Turns out that was all fake, right? James Clapper, who was the previous DNI under Obama, he lied. He flat out lied. And these guys effectively cried wolf on this. And so that's why the media has such a low approval rating and why people are getting their news from alternate sources. And in doing so, because there are so many other places where these things are coming out, we no longer have the confidence, right, in the major mainstream media outlets that they're doing all that's required of them in terms of sourcing, fact checking, and identifying these things. Instead, we've turned to this culture of using anonymous sources. And what happens? Independent media grows up, and now there's effectively, these stopgap measures to keep the truth from coming out. And if you're a liberal, I don't fret that that you're seeing these things. I don't begrudge your ability to have your own opinion, but you have to be on the side of free speech, and you have to be on the side of anti-censorship. You have to want for everybody to be able to see. There was a time when we had Walter Cronkite, who would simply get up there and read the news, state the facts, and let Americans decide what they wanted for themselves based on that information. And we've gotten to a place where we have far few straight anchors and a lot of people who are running with opinion and editorial. And a lot of those people are now citizen journalists and coming out with the real story. So you tell me how the Hunter Biden laptop could be faked, and tell me that you don't see the clear alibi in the Rudy Giuliani story. And then look at The Guardian and all these publications, The Atlantic, The Guardian, The Economist, publications that I've subscribed to all and have enjoyed their reporting, their insight, their great storytelling over the years. And now that whole house of cards is falling apart. We are looking at this and we are going, why can nobody tell us the straight truth? And I do not believe that a platform like Facebook and or Twitter and YouTube should be in the business of deciding what is true. I mean, there are all kinds of crazy theories out there. People can assess for themselves. Is this thing really sourced? Is this thing well documented? Do your own research. Think for yourself. Don't just regurgitate in URLs what other people tell you. You got to really dive in, and you got to say, what would it take for this to be ultimately true? What were the other questions I would ask? If I was in the press corps, what are the questions I would be asking of Biden? They have not denied the veracity of this laptop. They have not denied that these documents exist, which demonstrate not only corruption, but some serious moral pulchritude. For Mike Christian, I'm America's New Clothes. Join us next.